All right. It's going to go into the horrors of mundane existence and the nature of evil and the nature of nature. Now, this is called theodicy in the modern philosophical world, which is basically an attempt to answer why a good God would permit the manifestation of evil in the world. Because, as I always point out, there's a lot of evil in the world, and not just human psychology. That's usually the average person's view of evil in the world. If you tell them there's evil, they usually refer to human evil, wars, violence, abuse. But the philosopher or someone who's really thinking, we're talking about evil intrinsically placed in the world, in the ways of the world, the functions of the world at all levels. And we're trying to answer this question. So I like to point out when we get into anything that regard this concept of God, you basically have three types of people. There's when people hear something like God, you have the fool who says, like, Amen, Hallelujah. When they hear these concepts, I'm saved. They just jump right on it. You know, it maybe is intuitive, but they just jump right on it with no thought. And then you have the smartass who, oh, that's bullshit. Can't be true. It's outrageous. I can't see that. Where? What are you talking about? Bullshit. That's a smartass. But then you have the wise person who says, well, what does that really mean? So this is what we have here. Basically, we all know the common religious people. A lot of thinking people would consider them to be sort of foolish, basically. But then we have the atheists who are the smartasses, who just they throw the baby out with the bathwater. When we talk about God or anything behind this creation, because to look at something created and to say nothing created it is kind of ignorant. Now, what they do is they throw out these allegories. They're able to disregard or debunk the allegory, which all it is. When we mention this sky god with a beard, it's an allegory. And they debunk that and think that, oh, see, gotcha, no religion, it's all bullshit. Or some of the atheists even go as far to say, well, look at the world is evil, can't be a god. The problem with that is you're automatically assuming that God means good. This is some part of the programming we have, and especially the modern world or with mass religion, we automatically assume God means good, but God could also be evil. So when they look at all the evil in the world or the fact that they don't see a God coming down from the sky, it must not be a God. But there's definitely some type of intention or awareness behind this. Now, the modern atheists like Dawkins and his crew, who actually got stumped by Ben Stein, I'll put the link to that video. Even this idiot, Ben Stein made him admit that, well, maybe some alien civilization created humans. It's like, fool, who made the aliens or what made the aliens? But of course, that's based on the Big Bang, and the Big Bang is not even true. It's false. Has been debunked. The globe has been debunked. So we're in a whole new era anyway. So these atheists, they're really going to have to take it on the chin when if they ever accept flat Earth. I don't know how big flat Earth is going to get in the mainstream because it's system busting. But back to the point, atheists always run to, oh, well, it's evolution. And I'll read some quotes from guys who actually fell for the heliocentric evolution, Big Bang misinterpretation. I mean, it's a lie initially. Then evolution, down the road, people start believing in it. I don't believe in monkey to man evolution. But even if you say something evolved, like they say things like, oh, the DNA evolved, it adapted, you're giving it a type of awareness or intention. You just can't avoid it. The fact that you think and you create and we put things together, the fact that we see something that was put together, there must be some type of intention behind it. Now, it doesn't have to be a sky god or God in the sky, a man, putting pieces here like Legos, and that's stupid, that's absurd. But there's definitely some type of formless consciousness behind it. Um, you can't deny it. I mean, they think the brain just thinks. Um, what ordered the brain into manifestation? Well, the atoms and the came together, but was it random? Well, they ordered they. See, when you say they, you're giving it some type of intention. You can't get around it. So it's clear there's something behind this creation. So that's why I say the wise person says, well, what do you really mean? Maybe there's no actual beings hovering above or human like, but something's behind this created thing. Definitely, there's definitely some type of mind or awareness with intent behind this thing, this creation. And we're looking into the nature of it. Um, is it good? Is it evil? Is it neutral? So that's what this is about. Now we know if we look at the world, it's a lot of suffering going on. And like I said, we're not just talking about male and female psychology. We're talking about nature. We're talking about the functions, the processes of existence. Daily existence is full of suffering, and it's downright cruel. So, this is a poem from Alfred Lord Tennyson, I believe, and it's called In Memoriam. He said, "Man trusted God was love indeed, and love creation's final law. Though nature, red tooth and claw, with ravine, shreked against his creed." And so this writer goes down to break this down. He said, Tennyson nailed it. We trust that God is love, but we also believe that God is the creator of nature. And nature simply does not seem to point to a God of love. Parasites, viruses, bacteria, diseases, and cancer kill millions and torment millions more, humans and animals alike. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, mudslides, and volcanoes do the same. And the animal kingdom is, as Tennyson said, red in tooth and claw, blood. So is the human kingdom for that matter. The creation looks almost as much like it was created by a cosmic predator as it does like it was created by an all loving, peaceful, benevolent creator. So he's saying it's just as much as you could say it's peaceful, all loving. And where people get this from is basically just scenes of nature, like trees and sun rays and the beach, the sunset, the oceans, the flowers, and that's enough to delude people, just this visual, this aesthetically, this shallow, um, the shallow vision which they use to say that, oh, it's beautiful. But look below the grass and within the woods, and it's not so beautiful. But there seems to be a Lucifer principle at work in the world. As Howard Bloom noted, nature does not abhor evil. He says she embraces it. So, yeah. Obviously, nature does is not against evil. In fact, nature embraces it. And he goes on, this is the problem of natural evil, and it's arguably the most formidable objection that can be raised against the belief in an all-powerful, all-good God. I shall put natural in quotes when referring to natural evil to signify that I don't believe there's anything natural about it. Hmm. This is this writer. I'll post a link to this website. Evil that humans inflict on one another can be explained by appealing to free will. But how are we to explain evils where there is no human agent responsible? So that's what I'm saying. You say evil in the world, the first thing people do is to talk about what's on CNN. But no, we're going deeper. We're talking about this creation itself and the way it functions. Um, those are the evils we're investigating. So Charles Darwin, who of course is famous for this theory of evolution, like I said, which is it's kind of sketchy now, especially with there's no Big Bang. So this whole cosmic particles evolve into slime, primordial slime, and yeah, single cell, multi cell, uh, fish, amphibians, reptiles, monkeys. I mean, first of all, the dinosaur thing is also a lie. So, you know, but that whole monkey to man evolution thing that's got to be re-questioned with the flat Earth and the no vacuum, no Big Bang. We're going back to the real cosmology. So that's suspect. But here we're using Darwin to quote his observations of nature, which really don't necessarily have anything to do with his theories. So, of course, he studied nature for years. And this is actually what he had to say, because he was actually, I believe he was Catholic at first, but after, going on his studies, this is what he had to say. He wrote letters to his brother, and he said, what a book a devil's chaplain might write on the clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel works of nature. That's what he saw. Because when you really look at it, like I said, look at these videos, man. Like, you got to really look at it with the deprogrammed mind. Because a lot of time we just look at it with this mentality that it just, oh, it's just nature. I don't know. Yeah, I know. Like, it's cruel. Like you said, it's wasteful, it's blundering, it's low, and horribly cruel. And another quote, he says, "There seems to be, there seems to me too much misery in the world. I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created the parasitic wasps with the express intention of their feeding within the living bodies of caterpillars, or that the cat should play with the mice. No, that the cat should devour the mice. Um, like, why would an all good God even think to design such a thing? It would be better off designing nothing. Um, so this is where the some of the atheists get off the God thing too. Like, oh, whoa, surely there is no good sky God, surely. And so now we're leaning toward either no God, which is kind of foolish to say there's nothing behind the created things, or we're leaning toward what the Gnostics and other even philosophers say, um, evil God, basically. Not necessarily a being, a monster in the sky, but we're talking about an intention, a consciousness, some awareness, some type of mind behind this. The Buddhists consider it a defiled mind. They call it Mara. Like, Mara is the Satan in Buddhism, and that's what they consider this world to be of. The Gnostics call it Demiurge. Like you said, I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created the parasitic wasps with the express intention of their feeding within the living bodies of caterpillars, or that the cat should play with the mice. Um, so some people mention, oh well, the cat's not evil. It's just when they eat the mouse, it's evil. But the thing is, if he didn't eat the mouse, he wouldn't exist. So you're still stuck with the point. There would be no function if he didn't eat the mouse. Like, the cat is not here for us to come along and pet it and say how beautiful nature is and how nice the cat is. No, that cat wouldn't exist if it didn't have its canine teeth or its claws. I don't know if they have canines, but their sharp teeth. They're carnivores. Their whole existence, there's no existence without survival, and this is their survival. We're admitting the acts of survival are evil. This thing might just be evil. I mean, it's not a far-fetched concept when you look at the way this thing works. Like I said, even Darwin says this. So this is what says it led him to basically question nature and his God that he grew up with, and he basically became sort of a agnostic, and said, oh, he went on to just maybe it's just evolution. Who knows what he really thought after that? But clearly, he wasn't persuaded with the interpretation given by the mainstream church at that time, because he was no fool. I mean, come on. Obviously, all good force or mind wouldn't manifest this world at all. So here's Clarence Darrow. He is another famous so-called atheist. Now, the advantage that the atheists do have as far as thinking is they just don't superimpose this diluted concept that some all good creator made this. They look at it with honesty, because a lot of people in the church, like especially when something bad happens, oh, don't question, you can't question God, mysterious ways, no, no, no. And that makes you stupid. Like, that's stupid. I mean, you can't even have an open mind. So they do have an advantage in some areas, especially when it comes to analyzing this creation. They have an advantage over these deluded mass religious people who just accept all the evils of the world and nature and like it's some kind of test or something. Like, it's crazy. It just gets sadistic to even think that. So Clarence Darrow, who was another one of these, atheists, he was wise enough and clear-minded enough to analyze nature also. And so he had a debate with some other guy. I'm just gonna go through his spiel of what he thought about nature and the evils and miseries and futilities of nature. Nothing is so cruel, so wanton, so unfeeling as nature. She moves with the weight of a glacier carrying everything before her. In the eyes of nature, neither man nor any of the other animals mean anything whatever. The rock-ribbed mountains, the tempestuous sea, the scorching desert, the myriad weeds and insects and wild beasts that infest the earth, and the noblest man are all one. Each and all are helpless against the cruelty and immutability of the resistless processes of nature. They're resistless, you can't resist them. Whichever way man may look upon the earth, he is oppressed with the suffering incident to life. It would almost seem as though the earth had been created with malignity and hatred. If we look at what we are pleased to call the lower animals, we behold a universal carnage. We speak of the seemingly peaceful woods, but we need only look beneath the surface to be horrified by the misery of that underworld. Hidden in the grass and watching for its prey is the crawling snake, which swiftly darts upon the toad or mouse and gradually swallows it alive. The hapless animal is crushed by the jaws and covered with slime to be slowly digested and furnishing a meal. The snake knows nothing about sin or pain inflicted upon another. He automatically grabs insects and mice and frogs to preserve his life. Selfishness. The spider carefully weaves his web to catch the unwary fly, winds him up into the fatal net until paralyzed and helpless, then drinks his blood and leaves him an empty shell. Damn. The hawk swoops down and snatches a chicken and carries it to his nest to feed his young. The wolf pounces on the lamb and tears it to shreds. The cat watches at the hole of the mouse until the mouse cautiously comes out. Then, with seemingly fiendish glee, he plays with it until tired of the game, then crunches it to death in his jaws. The beasts of the jungle roam by day and night to find their prey. The lion is endowed with strength of limb and fang to destroy and devour almost any animal that it can surprise or overtake. There is no place in the woods or air or sea where all life is not a carnage of death and terror and agony. Like, damn, he just described in colorful detail. I mean, this goes on every day. Mother Nature, come on. These people are deluded. People are liars. This is going on. Definitely not a good God behind this, or no good mind behind this. I'm sorry. Continuing. Each animal is a hunter, and in turn is hunted by day and night. No landscape is so beautiful or day so balmy, but the cry of suffering and sacrifice rends the air. When night settles down over the earth, the slaughter is not abated. For some creatures see best at night, and the outcry of the dying and terrified is always on the wind. Almost all animals meet death by violence and through the most agonizing pain. Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, they die in pain. Like, even some people, I heard some carnivores try to act like animals don't experience as much pain as we do. Now, I know the average person, it's a blockage you put up because a lot of people don't want to face this truth. So good luck with that. But the truth is, they feel pain. There's a lot of pain in nature. It's intentionally designed this way. It functions this way. To say that, like I said about the cat thing, well, the cat's good. It's just not until it just devours the mice, then it gets evil. But like I said, it wouldn't exist. So to just assume that there will be this cat walking around, and that's good. But he wouldn't be walking around if he didn't have the calories he stole from the mouse. This is delusion. This guy's being upfront. This is Clarence Darrow. Continuing. With the whole animal creation, there is nothing like a peaceful death. Nowhere in nature is there the slightest evidence of kindness or consideration or feeling for the suffering and the weak, except in the narrow circle of brief family life. And that's true. Man furnishes no exception to the rule. He seems to add the treachery and deceit that the other animals in the main do not practice to all the other cruelties that move his life. Man has made himself master of the animal world, and he uses his power to serve only his own ends. Man at least kills helpless animals for the pleasure of killing alone. For man himself there is little joy. Every child that is born upon the earth arrives through the agony of the mother. And we went over that. From childhood on, the life is full of pain and disappointment and sorrow. From beginning to end, it is the prey of disease and misery. Not a child is born that is not subject to disease. Parents, family, friends, and acquaintances, one after another, die and leave us bereft. Yeah. The noble and the ignoble life meets the same fate. Nature knows nothing about right and wrong, good and evil. Pleasure and pain, she simply acts. She creates a beautiful woman and places a cancer on her cheek. She may create an idealist and kill him with a germ. She creates a fine mind and then burdens it with a deformed body. And she will create a fine body, apparently for no use whatever. She may destroy the most wonderful life when its work has just commenced. She may scatter tubercular germs broadcast throughout the world. She seemingly works with no method, plan, or purpose. She knows no mercy nor goodness. Nothing is so cruel and abandoned as nature. To call her tender or charitable is a travesty upon words and a stultification of intellect. No one can suggest these obvious facts without being told that he is not competent to judge nature and the God behind nature. If we must not judge God as evil, then we cannot judge God as good. In all other affairs of life, man never hesitates to classify and judge. But when it comes to passing on life and the responsibility of life, he is told that it must be good. Hypocritical. Although the opinion beggars reason and intelligence and is a denial of both. Like damn, yeah. Everything goes out the window when it's time to, follow the course of nature. Like I said, then we just resort to animal stupidity. Of course, right? Intellectually, I am satisfied that life is a serious burden, which no thinking, humane person would wantonly inflict on someone else. So that's Clarence Darrow. That's how he sees it. That's how he sees Mother Nature. So clearly, I, this is not a good creation. Basically, if you want to call it good, you have to admit that you're superimposing something on it that's really not there. And I'll accept that, or I'll accept your belief. You believe what you want to believe, but clearly this is designed. It inflicts pain. It's basically a bunch of stealing. And I'll read a quote from Buddha to wrap this up. So this is one of the sutras, and it's not necessarily Buddha talking. These is just their philosophy, and they put it in story form. He's just discussing, so where does all this come from? And like I said, basically when you get into metaphysics, everything comes from mentality. Mentality doesn't come from a brain. A mentality creates a brain. A mentality creates a lion, a gazelle, a bug, a plant. There's a mentality behind it. So he's asking the ways of the world. Where does this come from? And so this is what is said. This is what the Buddha character says. Greed and love feed on one another until greed becomes insatiable. As a result, in the world of all sentient beings, born of eggs, wombs, moisture, and by transformation, tend to devour one another for the nourishment of their bodies to the extent that their strength permits. And the basis for all of this is killing and greed. And see, that's from the Buddhist Sutra. So basically, what they're saying is the mentality behind the world is killing and greed. Peace.